All right, John. So as is the case in the world of the NBA, movement happens slowly and then all of a sudden it picks up with a frenetic pace as it did in the last week. So we saw the 3-team trade, and now we see kind of the after effects of that, right? So we get word Sunday afternoon from multiple sources that All-Star guard Jrue Holiday is now heading to Boston in a trade from Portland. And he was traded, of course, to Portland from Milwaukee. That trade comes just days after that blockbuster deal, which, of course, sent All-Star guard Damian Lillard to the Bucks. Now, the Celtics are to receive Jrue Holiday. Blazers are to receive Malcolm Brogdon, Robert Williams, a 2024 first-round pick via the Warriors, 2029 unprotected first-round pick via the Celtics. So when you heard about this movement, especially because you're so closely tied to the Celtics organization and what they're doing, what was your initial reaction?
I mean, I think the initial reaction was, first of all, never underestimate Brad Stevens' ability to make a move, no matter the proximity to training camp. It's a gutsy move, and it's an all-in move. And I was of the opinion before the deal that I didn't want to do Brogdon and Robert Williams. I knew Malcolm Brogdon was gone at some point, either during the season or next summer. I knew that he was not going to live out his contract in Boston.
Sure.
But Rob, I pictured Rob as a long-term piece for the Celtics. And I thought because Kristaps Porzingis is generally, questionable with his injury history, and Al Horford is 37. And I said, maybe they don't have the appetite to do that. But the bottom line here is it's an arms race, and that's how it's been characterized by a lot of people. And it's 100% true. And Portland, give them credit for creating this situation. They probably knew we weren't keeping whoever we got. So all of the consternation from Miami saying, oh, Tyler Hero, blah, blah, blah. Well, I tell you what, Boston wasn't turning around and making this deal for Tyler Hero.
Yeah.
Or making the deal for Jrue Holiday. So it's an all-in move. It's surprising, but because Milwaukee got Damian Lillard and Holiday became available, Boston kind of felt the need, like, look, Milwaukee got better. And, oh, by the way, you get somebody that can defend the guy that your rival just got. It seemed like they kind of felt like they had to make the move.
Yeah, I think so. And I think there are a couple things you said there, and I agree. It is a race, an arms race by any means necessary. This is sort of the shift that we've been seeing in the NBA for the last several years, not just the concept of the big three or even in some cases the big four, but how you actually get to the big three or the big four. So to me, it's like an interesting chess match, if you will. And I think we were all wondering when the next move was going to be made, but I don't think any of us kind of saw it coming, because you and I even spoke about this during our preview and talking about your reaction to the Celtics, to the Bucks getting Dame Lillard. And now here we are just on the heels of that, talking about what we're going to do with the Jrue Holiday move.
Yeah. And I thought, my biggest fear was Miami gets Holiday.
Yes, I thought the same, John.
And it's like, wow, Holiday actually would be a better fit in Miami than, obviously Lillard's the better player, but man, that's such a great fit in Miami. I thought they had a chance. And look, that's another reason why Boston probably felt like they had to make this move. It's not the reason you make the trade, but it's also a nice side effect that Miami, a rival, doesn't get somebody like that. That Philly, a rival who is in disarray, doesn't get a player like that. Boston was like, it's us, it's Milwaukee. Milwaukee made their move. Boston's playing chess. They make their move. And they're doing their best to make sure that two teams are at the top of the East and they're separating themselves. So looking down the landscape of the East, that's another reason why Boston felt like, the price is high, but look, you got to do it.
Yeah, you absolutely do, because we talked about that during the preview as well. Like, the Eastern Conference is very interesting in that you literally have those same three that we keep talking about. It's the Bucks, it's the Celtics, and it's the Heat. And every now and again, someone else jumps into the conversation, Raptors or Bulls or even the Sixers. But like you said, disarray, injury, resetting that doesn't that isn't as bold or courageous as what the Celtics and the Bucks have done now get you to this point where it really kind of feels like it's a two-man race, at least on paper. We'll see what the season actually dictates. Want to real quick talk about something else that you just mentioned, John, and that was the missing piece and what that actual piece will be. So when you look across the landscape of what the Celtics roster now looks like, what the depth chart looks like, if you will, do you feel like Jrue Holiday is that missing piece to potentially get them back to the finals and then get them back to winning a title?
It's funny. I think the missing piece is there are a bunch of missing pieces that they've tried to fill, right?
Yeah.
Because at the beginning of the offseason, Kristaps Porzingis was a missing piece because the Celtics were they needed somebody to take the pressure off of Tatum and Brown, late game situations, fourth quarter situations, where they can now dump it into a guy who can score, who can post up smaller guys and get a good shot off. So that was a missing piece. Then Milwaukee makes a move. And you're like, oh, damn, now we have another missing piece. So
right.
Yeah, Jrue Holiday is that particular missing piece to fix what you need against a Damian Lillard. So if Milwaukee does something else, which they might be out of moves, but whenever somebody else makes a move, Boston has to sit there and say, do we have to do something else? And I still think that they are still a little thin at this point on paper on the bench. So we'll see how the season, the preseason progresses, how November progresses. The Celtics will take a look at their bench depth, but I can easily sit here and say there is another missing piece, and he's supposed to be on the bench, and we don't know who that is yet. So it's just a constant kind of flow of it's like plugging the holes in the dam. Oh, plug that one. Now there's water here. Got to plug that one.
Yeah, and you kind of have to decide which one, if you can't plug them all, which one is the most important to plug, and then kind of rank them 1, 2, 3. And in a league where 3-point shooting takes so much precedence, Jrue Holiday is probably the plug that you need more than anything, just to give a little bit of that spark on offense, because we know he can score at will sometimes, but it's more defensively what he can do, especially not minding guarding on the wing. But that brings to another point that you made. Then you look on the inside, and we know the game slows down and there's more action and activity on the inside as you get deeper into the postseason. Robert Williams was maybe the shocker, maybe the head scratcher in this entire deal, because like you said, Al Horford is 37. Kristaps Porzingis can play center if needed, but you also have to look at the durability there. So are you concerned about the fact that the Celtics decided it was okay to part ways with Robert Williams?
Yeah, I am. I'm not going to lie. And, Robert Williams is one of my favorite guys to talk to in that locker room. So maybe I'm a little bit like, oh, man, that sucks. But he's been so key for them. But the question for him is always when healthy. There are a couple of factors here with Rob. One is Boston has all his medicals. They know exactly what he's been dealing with, and they know exactly how healthy he's potentially going to be moving forward. So maybe that played into it. I also know that the collective bargaining agreement is this season is kind of like the go for it season. We've seen Phoenix load up. We've seen now Milwaukee load up, and now Boston's loading up. Because all of the very punitive second apron rules don't fully kick in until next season.
Right.
This is everybody's go for it year. And I'm telling you, between the finals, the draft, and July 1st, that normally quiet period is going to be super, super busy as teams try to make a bunch of moves before this calendar year ends. So Boston probably felt like we've got to go for it too, because once the rules change, we're stuck. Yes. And so that made it so Rob, there were always going to be hard decisions made once that new CBA fully kicked in. So Rob is one of the first casualties. Grant Williams was one of those casualties.
Yes.
The Celtics have had to make tough decisions already. So it sucks to lose Rob. He's an impact player, especially on the defensive end. Yes. It puts a lot of pressure on Porzingis to stay healthy and be that rim protector. The Celtics probably need another big, but as Brad Stevens said at Media Day, you got to pay a price to get something, and that was the price.